Hello,
I'm Savannah.
and I'm Alicia.
And this is Burden of Proof.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Last week was Heavenly Creatures.
Heavenly Creatures. I still haven't watched the movie. I really want
you
to.
You said you were going to.
No, I was. But Nicholas and I started watching a show, which is called Kevin Can F Himself. We started it. So we started that, and I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet.
I'm so sad that they had to wrap it up fast. I thought it was
it's
awesome.
Really good. We're only 4 or 5 episodes in, and we're really liking it. But I did see several people DM or comment and say that they have seen the movie, so that makes me even more excited to watch it. And I hope you guys liked it.
Yeah,
Alicia,
I thought it was great.
Thank you. What do you have for us today?
Today we have our Patreon case pick.
Oh, these are always good ones.
And I'm actually really glad that they picked this one. So shout out to all of you on Patreon who voted.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah, because I thoroughly enjoyed this case.
They always pick what cases that are good.
Yes.
Like even ones that I get and I don't think I'm going to like, I end up loving.
The funny thing about this one is I don't believe this was listener recommended. This was one that I was trying to fill in the gaps on the case poll. And so I threw out some that were listener recommended. And then this one I just came across and I was like, okay. And I really didn't know the full extent of it when I suggested it. So it was a nice surprise when it got picked.
That's cool. Wait a second. There was something I was going to tell you. Did you hear the news? Ding dong, the witch is dead. Aaron Taylor Johnson was seen without a wedding ring in London 2 days ago. And it's rumored that he is divorced from the granny.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wait, really? I thought we had talked about him before.
Have we?
I really, really
Who
thought
is
that we
he?
had. He's this actor who ended up getting into a relationship with his much older director, and then they got married. And it's like this weird power imbalance relation in Hollywood. I really thought we had talked about this.
Did we?
We definitely have. We have. And I thought you knew who it was.
Yeah, but I didn't remember his name. I didn't know who he was. I think I saw an article about it or something that people were questioning it. Not when they got married, but the fact that he was in the movie. She was like in her 40s and he was like 18 or 19. Yeah, I did see an article about it.
And then they got married and they've been married.
Yeah.
But he was just seen the other day without a wedding ring on, and there's like blind bag items that that they're getting a divorce or divorced. Well,
I have no idea who he actually is.
But
yes, we did talk about that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I saved some TikToks to show you.
So, I mean, I guess I don't like big age differences.
Yeah. And the age gap was so big anyway.
That is big. I can't imagine because I'm in my 40s. No.
Can you imagine?
You're a baby.
You have a 17-year-old.
I have a 17-year-old. Ain't no way. I have a 17-year-old that has a boyfriend. Ain't no way.
No, it's not happening. You know, to each their own, I guess.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
I know Nicholas and I keep calling him an older man because he's about to turn 24. And it's the time of the year where we're 2 years apart, not just a year.
Matt and I have that.
And I just keep going, oh, I'm so into older men. And he's like, I'm only 24. I am not an old man. And I'm like, silver fox.
Yeah. Except it's the opposite for Matt and I. I'm older.
I thought that was the case.
He gives me a hard time about being 2 years older, even though I'm like a year and 4 months older than him.
Exactly. I think Nicholas and I's age gap. A year and 6 months. Anyway, Aaron Taylor Johnson's hot and he's free, so that's it. That was the point of me interrupting you.
It's all good.
Well, it's the fact that he's hot really isn't that important. That's secondary.
Secondary?
Yeah, just happy he's...
Well, wait, how old is he now?
Oh, gosh.
He's like in his 30s now?
Yeah, they've been together a while. Hold on. He's 34.
Okay. Still, that's...
and his wife is 57.
Yeah, that's still a little young for me to go, oh, yeah, he's hot.
34?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
I'm 45.
That's fair.
I can't imagine looking at a baby-faced 18-year-old kid and being like, yes.
Oh, yeah. No.
How?
I swear to you this. And I know this will never happen, but I swear to you this. If Matt dies and you come home with some fruity tooty little thing, I'm going to go slap Alicia.
The only way first of all, if I come home with some fruity tooty little thing, it's not for that purpose. It's because he's gay and fun.
Yeah, right.
And that's it.
Yeah. As discussed on the live stream, Alicia's ready to be a bog witch. So
I can't be a single cat lady because I'm allergic to cats.
Right. You can be a single schnauzer lady.
I can. I probably will. Yeah.
He's not dead.
He's not dead.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, anyway.
He's not. But I've often thought about, like, what would I do?
That's very INFJ of us. Because I think about that a lot, too. Like, what would happen?
Well, with my husband's history.
That's fair.
And his family history of cancer, like, I've legit had, I mean, I didn't have to, but my INFJ self and my traumatized self is definitely like, okay, I'm likely going to be a widow at some point.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah.
What would I do in that instance? And pretty much it has changed through the years.
Mm-hmm.
The dating world these days of all ages. I have friends on Facebook that are divorced, widowed.
Yeah.
In their 30s and still single, in their 20s and single.
Yeah.
And all of them.
I would never
want to date. The consensus is that it's terrible.
I don't envy that at all.
So if I ever did take up with anybody, they would have to fall into my lap and they would not be that much younger than me.
Yeah, no.
Or that much older than me.
Yeah, I don't think I would. I can't imagine dating right now. I'm so glad I don't have to. If you have any good dating stories, send them into the podcast.
Yeah.
And we'll read them, like, out of Reddit. Like those Reddit podcasts where they just read Reddit posts.
Yeah.
I don't listen to them, but I watch those on TikTok a lot.
I do too. I love that am I the asshole things.
Anyway.
Are you ready?
I'm yapped out, yeah.
All right. So, today our story centers on Kay Weden, a school teacher and single mother from Salisbury, North Carolina.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's my home.
Yeah, I also didn't realize that when I suggested this.
I need to look at a map. See how far that is from where I'm from.
I'm guessing it's not too far from Asheville because it's near or within the Blue Ridge Mountains region.
Okay, yeah. It's like Rockwell, like past Kannapolis. Yeah. It's
It is a relatively small town. I do know that.
Yeah, it's not really near Nashville.
No?
No, not really at all.
I mean, obviously, mountains.
I mean, it's in North Carolina.
It's in
but they're on the same mountain range.
Yeah, that's
but
okay, but not
that's a
near
long
it.
mountain range.
That's a lot. Yeah,
this is like me not knowing where Ohio is.
That's not that bad. That's to know where a small town is versus an entire state.
I'm trying to make myself feel a little better.
That
about
is not
knowing.
The same thing.
I stand by the fact that Ohio should be in a different place. I'm looking for Ohio. Found it.
Savannah is forever looking for Ohio.
It is just so not in the right place.
She has no idea where I'm from.
It should be like in the middle, at the top middle. It's in the
where? By like the Dakotas?
It should be in my head. It should be where
or like where Minnesota is.
In my head, it's where Nebraska is. Maybe even like Colorado.
No. No, it's not that big.
I didn't say. I just meant that that's where it should be.
How would it fit there?
I didn't say it would fit there. You're overthinking it. It's not logical. I'm saying that in a different... I'm telling you this is a Mandela effect. Ohio used to be in a different place. I'm not stupid. It's the universe.
Oh my God.
Anyway, Salisbury.
Okay. Anyway.
My grandma said in Salisbury.
Salisbury. In 1993, Kay was raising her teenage son, Jason, alone, but was also back in the dating pool.
Okay.
That we were just speaking about how terrible it was. So I think most of us can agree, as we already talked about, that dating can be dreadful, especially when you have kids to consider.
I can't even imagine. Like, I don't know how most moms like dress themselves in the morning with everything they have to do in a day. I can't imagine like getting to know somebody new and Yeah.
Nevertheless, Kay wanted what anyone wants: companionship, love, and perhaps even a man who could be a role model to Jason.
Yeah.
Because from what I gather, Dad was like not in his life much.
Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact, but none of my resources mention Dad, former ex-husband. I don't know. I'm assuming they were divorced, but even that, I don't know. He might have passed away. I'm not sure. But after some real doozies of dating life or relationships, she thought she finally met the man who may fulfill all those dreams. In December of 1993, she had been seeing a man named Victor Gunnarsson, and things were going really well. She truly started thinking she could see a future with him. The two went out on the evening of December 3rd, 1993, and kissed goodnight at Kay's doorstep after making plans to take Jason to pick out a Christmas tree the following day.
Oh my gosh, what a magical Christmas story. Thank you so much for telling it to us. And we can go on about our day and everything was happily ever after.
No, this is not Hallmark.
Damn it!
Or Lifetime. The next day came and went, but Kay never heard from Victor, and he was not responding to her calls or messages. Within a few days, Victor's landlord filed a missing persons report with the police, but Kay still thought she'd hear from him. She didn't know what happened to him, but she still held out hope. Like, oh, he may have got busy. Right. She said that the last thing she thought of was murder.
Well, right. And that's honestly the last thing I thought, because I didn't think that's where this was going.
But Kay may not have known Victor as well as she thought. Apparently, Victor was a right-wing extremist from Stockholm, Sweden, who immigrated to the U.S. after an onslaught of harassment for being the chief suspect in the assassination of Prime Minister Olof Palme.
What a right turn we just took.
In 1986.
Whoa. Yeah. Okay, wrapping my head around that.
Yeah, he was so hated in Sweden that he had difficulty finding work and could not even walk the streets without people shouting at him. So he moved to the U.S., and he moved specifically to the little town of Salisbury, North Carolina.
Why did he choose there?
I don't know. There he worked as a language tutor, and he felt right at home. I assume because of his far-right beliefs, but yeah.
I don't know, man.
Before Kay could find out who Victor really was or where he disappeared to, though, she faced a much bigger loss. On December 9th, 1993, just 6 days after Kay last saw Victor, her mother, Catherine Miller, was found in her home dead from 2 .38 caliber gunshot wounds to the head.
Oh my gosh.
Catherine's house appeared to be ransacked, but there was no forced entry, nor had anything of value appear to be missing. It was also evident that she had been shot while standing in her kitchen making dinner. So detectives quickly suspected that Catherine knew the shooter and presumed that Kay likely would know them as well, since she and Catherine were so close. You look.
I came into this with no expectations, and still, I don't know why this is so the web is just, the plot, as they say, thickens. I can't. Okay. Making dinner's gonna feel weird tonight. Please don't shoot me while I'm cooking.
I won't. I promise. When they initially informed Kay of her mother's death, she was, of course, in shock and said she could not think of anyone who would want to harm Catherine. I mean, this woman was like in her late 70s, almost 80. Like, who would do that?
Right.
Detectives asked if she thought Victor may have something to do with it, but Kay refused. She said there was no way Victor could have done such a thing.
Right. I mean, they didn't know each other that well. Why would he kill her mom?
Right. So detectives asked her if anything else unusual had been going on with Catherine or herself.
Yeah. You guys seem to be at the center of this weird little web.
Kay then says, oh yeah, yes, and provided them with threatening letters that she had been receiving for weeks.
Woman, you should have led with that.
She told them that she had been hoping they were just a prank and swore she had no idea who could have sent them. One of them included a poem that said, "Roses are red, violets are blue. We are going to fuck up Jason and your house too." So not just making threats to her, but making threats to her son.
And she hadn't reported these at all?
Nope.
Okay.
That letter then continued with, "Mrs. Weden, we wanted to send you a warning that something is going to happen to Jason soon, and he is going to get hurt real bad. Jason won't know when or where, but it will be very soon." As scared as Kay and Jason were, she hoped it may just be someone pranking them, which honestly, I think if I were in her shoes, I still would have reported it, but I do understand why she thought that, because Jason being a teenager and she was a high school teacher.
Right, yeah.
So, and the verbiage in that, he's going to get hurt real bad.
Real bad.
I could see thinking, oh, this is probably some punk kids just trying to scare, has a problem with Jason.
I see that too, but maybe report them so that they can learn a lesson if that's the case.
Correct.
But I understand why she did not.
This is where I don't understand why she hadn't reported. The letters I understand.
Yeah.
But then they started receiving threatening phone calls from a grown man. But she did not recognize the voice. So she just, I guess, continued hoping that it was a prank. And later in an interview, she actually said, well, it's difficult to be scared of someone or something when you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I personally would be terrified, but
I think it's scarier if I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because you don't know who it is and who to trust.
And also, you thought you were messing around, these were teenage boys, and this is clearly a grown adult man.
There's obviously somebody involved. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Kay was dead wrong. A month went by with no real evidence as to who killed Catherine when Victor was found on January 7th, 1994. He was found by a land surveyor 100 miles away in the woods just off of the Blue Ridge Parkway, a drive notorious for its scenic route through the Blue Ridge Mountains.
It's so beautiful. Love driving in it on the Blue Ridge. It's so pretty.
Victor was found naked, frozen to the ground, and had 2 bullet wounds, one in his temple and one in his neck.
And the mom also had 2 bullet wounds, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Different gun.
Right.
Which we'll get into.
Yeah.
They knew he had been there for a while because he was also missing a foot.
Oh.
And
something had a snack.
Yes, and other, that's the exact word that I used. Other wounds indicating that animals had been snacking.
Yeah, that's, there are creatures out there.
Yes.
They be hungry in the wiener.
In the wiener.
Yoo-hoo, make someone blow out.
The only potential evidence left at the scene was a single piece of electrical tape that had a few drops of blood and hair attached. That had obviously been used to gag him.
Yeah, icky. Okay.
Both the blood and hair matched the victim.
I'm like, is this a political crime? Try and figure this out.
I know, right?
I can't wait.
The autopsy found that Victor had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle.
That's a big boy.
Yeah. They also determined that he had likely been killed within 4 hours of his last meal based on his stomach contents.
Okay.
Eventually, detectives connected their John Doe to Victor's missing person case. In the missing persons report, Kay was listed as the last known person to see Victor. So, the detectives doing his case from a different county questioned Kay and found out she had been dating Victor. And when they informed her that he is found dead by gunshot wound, Kay began sobbing and said, "Why is this happening again?"
Well, yeah, girl. I would love to know.
Right. So the detective was like, what does that mean? What do you mean? Because this detective didn't know.
Oh, okay.
This detective had no idea about Catherine's case because it's a different county. Yeah. So she was like, what do you mean happening again?
Okay.
And Kay explained that her mother had been murdered just days after Victor disappeared. And so they continued questioning her about her and Victor's last evening together. She confirmed that the dinner that they had eaten together matched his stomach contents found by the medical examiner. So detectives from both counties begin working together.
Yeah.
Because obviously this is suspicious.
Well, and they're smaller counties too. So
they also found themselves working with Interpol due to Victor's possible connection to the assassination of Olof Palme.
I'm trying to remember for what is that again? Interpol?
Interpol is
it sounds familiar, but I can't think. Like international crime.
Yes, yeah. It's okay. Sort of like an international FBI sort of situation. Yeah.
Cool. I've heard it in movies, but nobody explains it.
Yeah.
So.
Apparently, Interpol had questioned whether Victor was hired by the CIA to kill the prime minister. So when he was found dead, they were like, did the U.S. government have something to do with this? Like they're tying up some loose ends there?
Right.
Or what? But it was not.
No.
Nor did detectives find anything in the search at Victor's apartment that linked him to the assassination.
Oh, interesting.
So if he did kill him, I'm not saying he did or didn't.
Right.
I understand why he was a suspect based on the little information that was shared in my sources for this. But if he was, it wasn't like a big plot.
Right.
It's just, he may have actually even just been at the
quote unquote
right place at the right time to have opportunity, but who knows? So detectives established that Victor had made it home from Kay's that night, December 3rd. His car was parked outside his apartment, and there appeared to be no forced entry signs or signs of struggle within the apartment. Though detectives suspected Catherine and Victor's murders were connected, they didn't have evidence to prove it. Different weapons were used. There was very little evidence at the scenes. And Kay still could not believe that anyone she knew would do such a thing.
I don't know if I believe her because she didn't tell us about the letters. And I just feel like it's
not that, I don't think she's being insincere. Truthfully, my feeling is that she was just extremely naive.
Okay.
I'll just make that clear from the beginning. I don't think she was hiding. I don't think she was...
Right.
I think she was just very naive. She did grow increasingly fearful of who was threatening her, though, and while waiting on the investigations, Kay's son, Jason, awoke abruptly in the middle of the night to a loud popping, or what he described as wood hitting plexiglass. Kay called the police, and when they arrived to investigate, they found a bullet had been shot through the outside wall of the house, into Jason's bedroom wall, and into the dresser that sat right next to his bed. It was no more than a couple feet from where Jason laid his head every night.
Bro, what is happening?
The officers collected the evidence and left Kay and Jason with more questions than ever and not much hope that they would find whoever was tormenting them.
Right. And like, what do you do? Like, go back to bed? Like, no. I'd be getting in my car. On the road again?
Feeling desperate and alone, Kay turned to her former fiance, now friend, Lamont Claxton Underwood, otherwise known as Elsie. He was a retired police officer, and Kay thought he, of all people, would understand and perhaps be of some help.
Well, right, I can see that.
He offered to come over right away and look at everything. Elsie looked over the latest letter that she was sent and offered to talk with detectives. The harassing letters and phone calls seemed only to increase, with little to no more information from the investigations. Though when detectives finally felt they were at a dead end, without more information from Kay, that is, they questioned her again. And this time, they let her know that they really suspected that the letters she had been receiving sounded intimate.
Oh.
They then asked her directly if she had any relationships that ended badly, to which she finally admitted that things had not always been good between her and her ex-fiancé, now friend, Elsie.
I had a feeling.
Kay told them that it was the worst breakup she had ever had, but that things are okay now. He's actually helping me.
Or is he inserting himself into an investigation, babe?
One of the detectives knew Elsie, letting Kay know he'd crossed paths with him a few times. And Kay explained that her relationship with Elsie had started out wonderful, but he eventually began displaying some strange behavior, which caused them to date on and off again for a while.
Like what kind of behavior?
We'll get there.
I want to know now.
We'll get there very soon.
Okay.
And you'll be frustrated.
Okay.
She ended the relationship for good in the beginning of 1993.
Okay.
So months before she ever met Victor, after he suddenly had an outburst over the snow. Elsie had picked her and Jason up for a road trip and began ranting about how he had just washed his car, and now that it's snowing, his car was gonna get dirty again. Kay and Jason sort of laughed it off and said, it's just some snow. And he began shouting and cussing at her and at Jason if Jason said something to try and intervene. And it scared them both enough that she was like, I'm done. We're done here. It's too much. So detectives asked her about any other events that may have occurred with him before or after the breakup that were unusual or scary. And Kay explained that there was one incident after their breakup. She was on a first date with another man having dinner. Elsie showed up, walked up to their table, pulled up a chair, and creepily stared at them. Her date then told him he should leave. And Elsie turned to the man and told him if he didn't shut up, he'd kill him. Then Elsie turned back to Kay, looked at her, looked down at her iced tea glass, picked it up, dumped it in her lap, and then just got up and slowly walked away.
That is so unhinged.
And mind you, this isn't a maturity thing. Like, these people are in their 40s.
Yeah, this is just like...
So it's not even like you can blame it on
there's
immaturity or any sort of... No. So detectives asked her if she ever considered that Elsie was behind all of it. She said, no, he's a cop. And he's always claimed to love me. He would never do that. She then informed them that he had been trying to help her since the murders because she was scared and frustrated that the investigations were going slow.
Almost like that's what he wanted.
Mm-hmm. One problem with Kay's theory on, oh, he loves me though. He would never do anything like that. Or he's a cop, so he's not going to break the law. When they looked into Elsie, They found he had 3 very badly failed marriages and multiple formal complaints from women about abuse, stalking, and threats.
Oh, babe.
So, they had nothing at that point connecting him to the murders and attempted murder on Jason, but they did now have reason to look at him as the person behind the harassment and threats. They got a search warrant and confiscated a typewriter found in his home. And a document examiner inspected the typewriter and the ribbon. On the ribbon, he found multiple sentences, including the roses are red poem I mentioned earlier. And this gave them reason to obtain a wider scope search warrant for his entire home to look for anything that might connect him to the murders. What they learned is that LC suffered from hardcore, legitimate OCD.
Oh, friend. You're making us look bad.
Yeah. Which Kay confirmed as well. She said his entire house was absolutely spotless and orderly.
Yeah.
His kitchen pantry was not only neat, but within each grouping of items, he would alphabetize things.
Oh, babe.
So like cans of soup were then alphabetized.
He needs some help.
His closet, perfect. All the items were spaced perfectly. There was mention of him having multiple pairs of like loafer style shoes with rubber bands placed around each one to keep the tassels from fraying or bending.
Yeah.
Kay explained that she knew he was extremely compulsive about cleaning, saying that he would vacuum each room as they left so that there was never any footprints left.
Okay, the poor... Oh, wow, that's tough.
Yeah, he's got a lot of the compulsion side.
Yeah, right.
Though this neatness made the search somewhat easier, because you're not searching through a bunch of stuff everywhere, it also did not uncover what they most hoped to find: the guns used in the murders, or even the shooting at Kay's house. What they did find was black electrical tape that, when tested, matched the tape found near Victor's body.
Okay.
They also searched his vehicles, despite learning that LC had taken them both to a local car wash to have them detailed just after the murders.
Right.
One of the cars, though, had scuff marks and a shoe print on the inside of the trunk lid.
Oh, right. That's where that belongs.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing suspicious about that.
But they had no shoe to compare it to because Victor was found naked.
Yeah. But still, that's suspicious.
Yes. The liner of the trunk, though, looked spotless. There's nothing. It was so clean that the tape used to pick up foreign fibers or objects was picking up nothing, like as they roll the tape along. And right when the technician was about to give up, he actually looked a little closer just with his eyes and found, those liners, like hair will like weave itself
in
through.
there, yeah.
He found hair embedded in the liner, and he tried again to like run the tape over it, but it was so deeply intertwined that it wasn't budging. So he had to pull out with tweezers that hair. And then as he did that and he looked more closely, he found 16 hairs total that only came out by carefully...
He's got some good eyes,
pulling them out with tweezers. Yeah.
Can't say he's not thorough.
No, he definitely was.
He said, this is my job, the trunk, let me get in there.
Yep. None of the hairs contained the root, so they could only conduct a less definitive DNA test using mitochondria.
Yeah.
They compared the hair that was found in the liner with that of Victor's blood that was found on the piece of tape left behind at the scene, and the two were a match. Though in scientific terms, they could only state that they could not rule out Victor Gunnarsson as being the person who left hairs in LC's trunk.
Yeah.
It was enough, though, to make an arrest, which gave Kay and Jason some ease that, like,
right.
okay, you arrested him. Great. We can breathe. We're not going to get shot through our house probably tonight. This impacted them so badly.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Especially Jason. I mean, it definitely impacted Kay too, but I think she was, like I said, I just get the impression that, like, throughout all of it, she was very naive.
Mm-hmm.
But Jason...
Well, and they were engaged. It wasn't like they were casually dating. So he's looking at this, as a role model in his life. And
yeah,
that's freaky.
Yes. So it was not until January 30th, 1996, more than 2 years after Victor's body was found, that a grand jury indicted Elsie with first-degree kidnapping and murder.
What I don't get is the mom. Alicia made eyes at me. Are we about to kiss?
No, it was
it's coming.
I want to be famous. Kind of. The prosecution's theory at trial was that Elsie wanted to create such dire circumstances for Kay that she would be vulnerable and desperate enough to take him back.
Yeah.
Though they did not charge him with the murder of Catherine Miller, they were permitted to discuss it in this trial through questioning.
Interesting.
Specifically, they questioned witnesses about a time after his and Kay's breakup where he caused a scene at a restaurant she and Catherine were dining at. Okay. So this is a whole separate time that Kay and Catherine were having dinner, and he showed up, and then he caused a scene blaming Catherine and her lack of approval of him for the reason that their relationship fell apart.
Okay.
Because Kay was so close with her mother that even though she was a grown woman,
right,
apparently he thought.
Right. Well, he's just reaching for any sort of excuse other than to look at himself, I'm sure.
Yes. Aside from the physical evidence we've already discussed, they presented evidence that Elsie had called in a favor to a friend on the police force to check a plate registration the night that Victor was believed to be killed. The same night that he had the last date with Kay.
Huh.
And it was, in fact, his plate. They also had witness testimony that Elsie had lent a friend a .38 caliber pistol, but showed up to reclaim it the same day that Catherine Miller was killed with a .38 caliber pistol.
Oh, buddy. For a cop, that's real stupid.
Unfortunately, they never recovered any of the guns used in any of the crimes.
That's weird, but okay. I mean, if you dumped them off the parkway,
something,
or like into ravines or something. I mean, there are some big drops like over. Yes. Yeah, I mean, he took Victor into the mountains. Those guns are gone. They're in there somewhere.
Yeah. The defense was pretty much, he didn't do it, and here's a bit of circumstantial evidence that says he didn't, which I will talk about in just a few minutes. Okay. Regardless of the lack of absolute definitive evidence, the jury found Elsie guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 40 years.
Oh, wow. That's a long sentence.
Mm-hmm. Being a former officer, he, of course, did not hesitate to make his way through the appeals process.
Right.
He argued everything from court error for admitting evidence of Catherine Miller's murder.
I knew that was going to come back to bite us in the butt.
To insufficient evidence, to claiming that there was evidence against other suspects. The latter was particularly interesting and part of his right of habeas corpus to the U.S. District Court. In it, he names a well-known and respected county resident who stated in an interview with police after Catherine's murder that he saw an individual leaving the area of Catherine's house around the time she was believed to be killed. And supposedly, he told police that he was sure it's not Elsie Underwood. And that the description he gave supposedly matched that of a foreign exchange student, so a much younger man, that Kay was actually boarding at the time. That witness told an agent in a later interview that the officer he initially spoke with told him, quote, it didn't matter because he was going to put the murder on LC.
No, I just think that it's a convenient scapegoat because Elsie has all this history of escalation and abuse. Like,
no.
Don't blame the foreign exchange student. Like,
so when I'm talking about agents, I should, I guess, clarify. These are State Bureau of Investigation agents that got involved deeper into the investigation.
Right.
An agent also supposedly had acquired a confession for the murder of Victor Gunnarsson from a man named Brandon Shelton. According to the court documents, Brandon and his friend Michael Blackwelder killed Victor because Brandon had caught his wife Heather having an affair with Victor. That being said, Victor was known to be a ladies' man.
He's got an accent.
So
he's exotic.
It's entirely possible that he was having affairs with married women. Not doubting that based on what was said about him.
Right.
But the thing was that this was all stuff presented at the trial.
Yeah, so
basically it was said, we're going to present evidence of these witnesses and whatever. But Brandon, who supposedly confessed, ended up recanting and did not testify at the trial. And then the other person, the other witness to Catherine's situation never testified because it got very wishy-washy.
Right.
So at the beginning of the trial, the defense was like, yeah, we're going to present evidence to the contrary. And then they didn't.
Right. Because they
lost their witnesses.
Yeah, it wasn't, you can't.
Because of this, the U.S. District Court agreed that his counsel had been ineffective. They vacated his conviction and remanded it back to the lower court, directing that they either grant him a new trial or release him from custody within 180 days.
I'm not shocked by that decision.
However, the prosecution is
not
going to just sit back and be like, okay.
Bye, have a good life.
So just over a year later, the Fourth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, which is a higher court than the U.S. District Court, reversed the district court's decision, citing, quote, Underwood cannot overcome the fact, when all was said and done, the state's case against him was ironclad and overwhelming. Then they went on to say, quote, and it is clear to us that there is no reasonable probability that, but for defense counsel's assumed professional error, the outcome of Underwood's trial would have been different.
Right. Very well said.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're right. Even if they had come forward, the one recanted, so he would have come forward and said, yeah, I mean, I said it, but I didn't mean it. And the other would have had to say, well, I kind of think that I remember this, but it's kind of hard to tell. And that's not gonna do anything.
Yeah.
So nothing would have changed.
Yep. So basically, they're like, the prosecution proved it. The mistakes of his attorneys don't matter. Elsie Underwood then passed away from natural causes in the hospital of the Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina on December 23rd, 2018 at age 67. So he served some time before he passed. While Kay and Jason were both relieved to hear of his passing, the trauma that each of them endured and the damage to their relationship will undoubtedly take a long time to heal from. If you watch my one source, the episode of Dead of Winter, they actually interview each of them separately. And then at the end of the show, they show part of their reunion because they had not seen each other in person for like 3 years.
Okay.
Jason admitted that he had a lot of anger to deal with regarding Kay's decisions that led to bringing Elsie into their lives. And that was in 2020. So hopefully, they have found some peace with one another and are doing well.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Wow. Well, that was a roller coaster, but that was really good.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I felt like when I wrote it, it felt like, wow, that went really fast.
Some of them come together like that.
But I didn't want to overthink it.
No, it was beautiful.
So I was like, yeah. I mean, because there was like a ton more information in the appeals process.
Right. I mean,
but that can get tedious and boring. And so.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think you did a fantastic job. Thank you to our patrons for the amazing choice.
Yes. I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. Do you have an emoji for us this week?
Actually, you know what we'll do? If you're still with us, hopefully you are, and you want to participate in getting a Sunday shout out, go ahead and leave on our social media posts any food emoji for Catherine.
All right.
Because Catherine never got to see justice. Yeah. Got to have justice in court. I mean, the man was gonna obviously die in prison either way, but yeah, they never had a full trial for Catherine. Yeah. They never officially found her murderer. So yeah, leave us any food. I don't know what she was cooking for dinner at the time, but she was making dinner. So
give some dinner for Catherine.
Give some dinner for Catherine and you'll get a Sunday shout out.
Woohoo! We do that on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. And until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. Find us on Instagram and TikTok at Burden of Proof Pod and email us at burdenofproofpod@gmail.com.